Welcome back to the DNA Pest Control Podcast. Aaron,
And Daniel.
thank you. So, if you haven't listened to some of the past episodes, we definitely recommend going back. A big focus has been actually on growth. We had growth part one, we had growth part two, and then we want to step a little bit further into it. We have had quite a bit of questions and people asking, who have started their own business and really kind of where to go from there as they're the sole guy in it, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I also want to throw out there during this episode that we're talking about is this isn't only going to help a guy who's by himself starting a business, but it's also going to be for guys who already have their business. We talked a little bit before we started recording. It's everyone's kind of going through the same thing.
Yeah.
As shocking as it is, it doesn't matter how small you are, it doesn't matter how big you are. It seems to be a commonality across all industries is you deal with almost the same thing. It's just on a different level.
Mhm.
You know, some of the smaller guys, it's dealing with one person. On the larger companies, it's probably dealing with a dozen.
Mhm.
But they all go through about the same thing. And
Sure.
we want to cover a lot of that. I know you wanted to add a little bit more to it before we started. You threw in a lot of guidance of it. I want you to throw that back in.
Yeah. We were coming up with this episode idea based on the last two for growth, like Daniel was saying, but I wanted to go over how to build a team for success, or at least what we've done in the past couple years that's worked. And obviously, this is going to be huge for the listeners and viewers for the Q&A and tell us if we're doing things right or wrong or what's worked or what hasn't. But you know, a lot of the guys, like Daniel said, who are running are just they're literally everything. They're the operator, they're the tech, they're the office staff, they're collections, they're literally everything.
Mhm.
And kind of what those first initial steps look like on when is it appropriate or when you should bring on that first tech, and then on the actual labor and technician side, and then the back end side, when should you hire an office staff. And I was lucky enough to get on when there was a little bit of an established here. I think when I first got here, there was maybe 4 or 5 techs and 1 or 2 office staff, and things kind of fluctuated as, some of the pieces
Mhm.
came in and moved. But it's been really cool to see, like, I've seen, or I can understand why hiring too quickly or hiring not quickly enough can be detrimental, which is why it'd be cool to pick your brain on it.
Yeah, no, and jumping in that, I think it is I that's where it gets so difficult for so many who start
Mhm.
is and even for me over the years, the difficult part is when do you take on a tech? When do you take on office staff? You know?
What's the perfect answer?
And what
There's
is the perfect answer?
there's not, yeah.
And there's not one.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, thanks. You gave it away. No, but that's the thing is so many people want the answer. They want the path. They want to know, hey, what's going to get me success now?
Mhm.
What's that decision going to look like? Okay, hire a tech. Okay, great. I'll hire a tech then.
Boom.
And it's like, but there's a lot of moving parts still behind
Sure.
that. And even if you hire a guy, did you hire the right guy?
Mm.
You could have made the right decision
Yeah,
just with the wrong person.
it happens.
And then it doesn't work out.
Mhm.
And then people get scarred and then they say, well, I'm never hiring again.
Mhm.
No, you hired the wrong person. You gave them too much responsibility and it was terrible,
Yeah.
terrible experience. So for those who are listening, this is time to take in, and even managers who are listening and who have a team of guys and they're like, hey, when do we hire another one?
Mhm.
And sometimes corporate makes that decision for you.
Yeah.
They look at the numbers, they crunch the numbers for you and they say, okay, Mr. Manager, hire someone.
Mhm.
We have enough in the budget to hire someone now.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. And then you hire someone, but you don't even know why they
Yeah.
said hire someone. So this is going to be really good for everybody. Um, but going back to the first question is when do you hire somebody? And the question would be that I ask is who do you
Mm.
hire? Do you hire office or do you hire techs? Which one?
For me, I mean, with what I know, I would imagine you'd probably want to hire a tech first if you are by yourself, at least to alleviate some of the physical labor. Because as an owner operator, I feel like you'd have more insight on what the business or what direction you would start needing to put more energy in.
Mhm.
and getting at least more help on, I don't want to say the brainless work, but like the boots on the ground work. You need somebody
Yeah.
to go and get 15 accounts done a day or do a drive out and hit these random accounts while you go sell. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, I'll put a spin on it because I know this happens quite often is let's say you're married
Okay.
and your wife is doing the office work
Okay.
and you're the guy out in the field.
Okay.
So naturally you would probably want to hire a tech. Makes sense. But now the question is when?
Hmm. I feel like it would be when you're at a point when you, because I know that we're pretty self-aware on where we're the most effective and where we need to put our energy in.
Yeah.
And when that starts to get taken away or when we're getting pulled from where we're best at, I mean, we're going through it right now.
Yeah.
On the business side for you guys,
Yeah.
obviously we've talked about it, but we're hiring right now. We're looking to grow. We're looking to open these up new positions, but I feel like it's when you're getting pulled from what you do the best, but also not ignoring what needs to be done, which
Mhm.
is why who you hire for what specifically you need is more important. Because it might be a sales guy. It's like you might be just fine on like the labor side, depending on what you're doing. You know what I mean? You might not
Mhm.
have a ton of accounts, but you might be doing like a couple like really sensitive high dollar accounts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that it's always a good question, because hiring a second tech, I think, is more difficult than hiring the first.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Um, and we won't get into that one yet because obviously it takes baby steps to get there. But in the scenario of the wife is in the office,
Yeah.
you know, the guy's out in the field, right, running her out. You're out in the field running her out. Your wife's in the office. She's taking care of everything in the office, the phone calls, collections, all of that, right? um, when you hire someone is going to be, really the formula behind it. Okay. Is are your bills taken care of?
Okay.
Okay. And this is going to be minimal. Okay. Cause I want people to understand I would not have been able to hire somebody if I paid myself more money.
Okay.
Okay. This is where people make big mistakes is they go and say, okay, look, I have 300 accounts. Okay. Do not hire someone at 300 accounts. I'm going to throw that out there now. One, because you're still not full time.
Mhm.
So don't hire someone at 300
Okay.
accounts. But I'm giving you an example of a guy I actually talked to.
Oh, really?
He had 300 accounts, actually about 350. He was doing about 150,000 a year on the good side. Um, but after looking over financials and everything like that, he had his son on, but he was only paying his son like 25,000 a year,
Mhm.
maybe 30 a year. So it was on a very, very low end side.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, it hurts you more than helps because a lot of people think, oh, I'll hire my son off for cheap labor. Well, what happens when your son can't work anymore?
Mm.
What happens when he decides not to work for you? He doesn't want to because he found I can go actually make more money doing nothing, So why would I kill myself working for you when I can go do nothing and make more money?
Yeah.
Um, so then you get into this confusion of, well, I was only paying him like $8 an hour,
Yeah.
and I was taking the rest. Well, you can't pay a tech $8 an hour and expect them to do great work,
Mhm.
So if you get into that bubble, it's bad.
Okay.
Um, but you want to get to the point where you have enough work to keep a guy busy
Mhm.
and you understand what you can do. But you need to know how much money are you paying yourself.
Mhm.
This was something that I had to be very, very good at and controlling of when I first came into the business
Okay.
was sweet. I have 40 grand in the bank account. We're making money. I can spend 40 grand in the bank account,
Yeah,
right?
it's there.
It's there. I can spend it. It's mine, you know? And it was understanding and separating pro serve, right?
Mhm.
Company's company.
Yeah.
I'm me,
Yeah.
right? So I'm who I am. Your company's who your company is. And that's where it sits.
Right.
That is a living being.
Mhm.
I am a living being.
Okay.
Those don't mix. Who I
Mm.
am and what that is, that's what it is.
Mm.
When
Mhm.
you start to mix that and you say, well, that money's my money, I'm going to go buy $1 million home
Mm.
because we have 3 grand extra coming in.
'Cause I can.
So I can, right? That's where people are like, I can't grow. It's really tough to find someone.
Mhm.
It's this and that. And it's tough to find someone because you're not willing to put the money into it.
Yeah, you're not disciplined enough to check yourself on that.
Uh-huh. You're not putting that in, and that's where a lot of people will have issues with
Yeah.
it. Even my wife, she's like, well, that's yours. And I said, no, that's not. That's not mine.
Mhm.
And she'll say, well, yeah, it is. It's you're the owner. It's your company. No, it's not.
Mhm.
It's not mine. That is the company's.
It's its
What's mine is
own
mine.
it's a living, breathing being. I see.
Exactly. And actually, that's how the government looks at it too.
Yeah,
That's why companies can get loans on the company
that's a good point.
and not in your name if you structure it properly. So, with that being said, though, is that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You have to understand where that sits in controlling yourself.
Mhm.
So when I first came on, I didn't even take any raise. I think it was the first raise I took was like 4 years after I actually started it.
Not bad.
And even then, it was very little.
Mhm.
It was like increments.
Mhm.
Um, I'll get into what I did and why I did it, but I won't
Mhm.
do that now. There was a method to the madness behind, um, you know, taking a little bit, but not too
Yeah,
much.
I can see that.
Um, but it's because of the government and how they structure things. So I took advantage of it. But it was legal. It was very legal. It was not illegal.
Yeah.
But when you're in control, you can kind of see those things and you got to make those decisions.
Mhm.
So I didn't make any more money. All that money was getting funneled back into the business with the hopes of it's going to grow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that kind of sucks too, because most people are like, well, what if it doesn't? It can happen, but it's probably not, because if you're pushing that hard and you're putting in the time, it will grow.
Yeah.
But getting back to the point at hand is you need to control how much you're paying yourself.
Mhm.
Okay. You're making 150,000 a year, gross out of the company. You have 300 accounts. You start getting up closer to, let's say, 500 accounts. So you're
Yeah.
doing 250, 250. That's about when you can say, okay, let's hire another guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Cause now you're getting to the point where your schedule is getting so booked, you are literally only out in the field.
Mm.
You can't even sell anymore.
Okay.
And if you want to do it, I would probably actually do it a little bit before that. So I would start looking for somebody probably at the 350, 400 account range, understanding. But once again, if I made the 150,000, I would be paying myself only like 40 grand a year.
Mhm.
If I can get away with less, I do less. If I was running my company out of my home,
Yeah.
then I would pay myself even less
Yeah.
because the company's going to take care of some of those bills. So I'm going to lower how much I'm taking home.
Right.
Um, but the reason why I do that is because then I have more cash to put towards hiring someone, advertisements,
Yeah.
growth. That's why I did it.
I see.
Right. It was, if I can restrict myself, yeah, it sucks, and everyone complain. I mean, that's why I have like zero tolerance for guys when they come in and they're like, we need more, going back to growth.
Yeah.
It's because I didn't give myself a raise.
Yeah.
These guys come in and they're like, well, I need more money because it's hard. And it's like, you think that's hard? You didn't see what I went through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Right.
hard.
Right.
You're putting in a shit ton of work and
Yeah.
you're getting literally zero compensation for it.
For years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like 40 grand, and 40 grand's what you get.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, for how long? For me, it was about 4 years.
Mhm.
I didn't see anymore.
Yeah.
It just wasn't there. It didn't exist, but it was because I was funneling everything I could back into the business
Right.
and pushing it as much as I could and advertising as much as I could and paying guys and bringing on guys. But that came down to about the 400 account mark. Going a little bit above that is where you'd want to bring on that guy.
I see.
And when you bring on that guy, this is where so many people, and this goes back to the growth episode. So, guys, we're going to bring this up quite a bit, is go back and listen to it because it has everything to do with this talk, and what to see and why you need to be how you need to be to grow. But as the owner there at that point, you say, okay, I have 400 accounts, so I can hire someone. Yes, right. But you're probably going to hire them close to minimum wage
Yeah.
because you still can't afford some freaking killer out there, right? It,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. That's what we had to do. We had to hire somebody to put in a vehicle, and it worked, and it worked for a couple of years, but it wasn't like you can afford to pay that guy top dollar,
Right.
and that's where some guys really start to choke themselves as they try to hire this phenomenal guy. I actually talked to a guy locally here, and
Really.
he like tried to hire an operator, and it's him and another owner. And then they try to hire an operator.
Why?
Well, because people want to get into business, but they don't want to do the business.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to run the business. So they think I'm going to start this thing and it's just going to funnel in money automatically. It's just magically going to fall.
And I'll just be the puppeteer from the top. Just
No, they don't even want to do that.
oh.
They don't even want to be involved. They want to
Oh.
hire someone and that person knows everything and they want them to run it. That's going to be your mistake when you hire someone. Is you're going to bring them on. You hope that they're like you and you allow them to run everything and then they ruin everything.
Yeah.
But you're like, well, I hired you on, you're licensed, you knew what you were doing, but you've never hired anyone. You were a route tech before. You never had to go through those experiences. So most guys don't know actually how to do that.
Oh, I see.
So they just bring on whoever they can. They bring on that person. That person goes out and runs a route. They ruin everything. They get a ton of cancellations. They start to lose all this money
Yeah.
in hopes that they would grow. The owner gets comfortable because he's just sitting at home all day because he doesn't have a route to run
Right.
and he doesn't know how to do anything else. So then you go into this, roller coaster ride of firing a guy, hiring a guy, firing a guy, hiring a guy. Some people slowly start to grow because a guy sticks and pulls, puts up with the bullshit from the owner.
Yeah.
And then they kind of grow a little bit here and there. And
Yeah.
then you're 10 years down the road, 20 years, 30 years, and you're still about the same, maybe 300,000, but you're about where you're at. There's not much more there. But you hire that guy at that point. Sorry to go on tangents there. So you're looking at about hiring a guy about 400 accounts.
Yeah.
But understanding you as the owner, you need to grow now.
Yeah.
It's grow time. You hired that guy on to alleviate your time so you're not running the route. Okay. There's a purpose behind it. You are now firing yourself from the route temporarily. Okay. You are firing yourself from running the route to now go out and sell.
Mm-hmm.
And now your whole purpose is to sell and grow to fill up that one technician.
Yeah.
And yourself. Okay. Because you're going to keep growing and you're not going to have money to hire another tech. Yeah. And you can't split that work from that tech because that tech is with you because he's getting 40 hours a week. You cannot split him at 500 to 250 accounts now because now they are going to be only working half or a quarter of the time that they should be.
Right.
And you brought on another tech and now you're paying two guys the same wages as one. It doesn't make any sense because they're not making any, they're not making any money. And then you're going to push them away and then they'll quit. Yeah. Because there is no money there. Mm-hmm. So you have to be careful about hiring that person. Does that make sense? Did I clean that up enough?
No, it makes great sense.
Okay. Yeah. Is there a question there? What would you think someone would ask? We're gonna have to play devil's advocate here on.
No,
some
you're
of these
fine.
Things.
Yeah. I mean, my thought would be, because you said you have to fire yourself, but you still have to be involved. I would think of, is there a better or worse way? I guess it depends on the caliber of person you bring in and how much you're willing to pay them. But the way you're making it sound like is hiring somebody to just do the basic stuff to alleviate that from you. But no, I mean, I don't really, it makes sense how you explained it.
And see, this is the cool thing. While you were talking about those things, is there's some doubts. They say, well, why would a guy want to come on and work for me for minimum wage or things like that, or for cheaper rates? Yep. And I can give you a lot of reasons why. Okay. And if the guy's smart, he would actually stay on and stick with you through it because there's only room for growth. Mm-hmm. You're already at the bottom.
Literally.
I mean, you can't go further down.
Yeah.
You can only go up.
Yeah.
So when you start on with a company that's small and they're growing, you're going to be that person who grows with them.
Yeah.
If you keep sticking with that person and adapting and growing, yeah, your pay is going to be really crappy in the beginning,
Yeah.
right? Naturally, just like his is.
Yeah.
He's not getting the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
He could probably go work somewhere else
Mhm.
and make more money.
Yeah.
With more time and more freedom.
Yeah.
So you both have to be a little insane,
In
at
a
some
way.
level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Understanding that this guy could actually make more money than he's making somewhere else than he is here,
Mhm.
but he chose to do this. So there's got to be a future there.
100%.
Not everybody's like that.
Mhm.
So you choose wisely if you're the guy looking to go with somebody new.
Sure.
Also choose wisely when you're the owner, choosing another guy who's just as insane as you are, right?
Seriously.
But the idea behind it is as you grow, more money comes in, pay starts to get there.
Mhm.
Everything starts to get a little bit easier, everything starts to get alleviated, and then it starts to get easier. Now, I will not say it's going to get easier as you go to tech 2, tech 3, tech 4. It actually gets harder. Okay. And I think this is where it starts to kill companies too. But we won't get into that.
Yeah.
I want to just throw it out there and let it settle for a
Let it
minute.
marinate. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Get in there. But that's where it would be.
Okay.
We start a company, we start to grow it, right? You're the tech, your wife's the office. She's doing everything on the office side, back end stuff. You're doing all the tech stuff. That's what you know. As you hit that 400 account mark, 350, and depends on your services.
Yeah.
Depends how much you charge and depends on how long those services take.
Mhm.
Because some service and how frequent.
Yeah.
Okay. I said 500 if you're going off of bi-monthly services every 2 months.
Mm.
If you're going off of monthly services, you can only do 250 accounts.
Yeah.
A little bit more than that if you're efficient, you can go through your day quick.
Sure.
But don't expect another tech to do that. So if you're going off of monthly accounts, I would start to hire someone at the 200 mark. So then you're getting ready to get that 250 to shovel off onto him.
Yeah.
And then now you're pushing for growth and you're looking to grow. Okay. And actually at that point, it gets really, really easy. And it makes a lot of owners very, very lazy
Mhm.
because they don't have to work.
I can see that.
Yeah. But they're still making the same amount of money because they already restricted their pay if they did it right.
Yeah.
And so now I don't have to work, but I still get paid.
Right.
And that's where it gets really difficult for guys to get another tech
Mhm.
because now when one calls out sick, you got to jump in.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to work and you got to do some stuff. But that's what I would do.
Okay.
And that's about a good number. But obviously, look at your finances,
Mhm.
look at everything. There's not a right answer. And this could definitely be a wrong answer for you
Yeah.
if you don't look over everything properly. If you're charging nothing for services, you probably won't be able to hire someone until you're at about 600 accounts because you're charging so little.
Mhm.
And that's another issue that guys get into is they charge so small of amounts when they start the business
Yeah.
to get appointments on and get customers going
Mhm.
that they can't even afford someone even if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And so now they're doing a lot of work with very little pay or a lot of pay for them if they take it all, but very little if they end up hiring someone.
Sure.
Because it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
Okay. But of course, we want to go on the flip side, right?
Mhm.
Let's say you are a tech, you don't have someone to run the office for you. So you're running the office. Okay. You're the technician, you're the salesman,
Mhm.
you're collecting, you're doing everything. So from there, who do you want to hire? Do you want to go route of tech and
Mhm.
hire a tech, or do you want to go to the office?
It's a great question.
Yeah. I mean, you said you would go tech
Mhm.
in the situation.
Yeah.
So that means if you go the tech route, you have to be more savvy on the office route.
Correct.
Okay. So if you're not comfortable being in an office and sitting at a desk, and I've interviewed dozens of people in the past month or two
Yeah.
that absolutely hate being behind a desk. So those guys would ultimately fail
Mhm.
if they went that route
Sure.
and they would put themselves behind a desk and have a guy running a route. They would die. They wouldn't be
yeah.
able to handle it. So with you taking on the responsibilities of, the office, you have to understand you are now firing yourself from being a technician temporarily. Once again, you're still going to be able to get into a vehicle,
Sure.
but you have to be able to separate yourself.
Mhm.
Now, the cool thing is if you take that route and you jump into the office, you hire someone out in the field, you don't have to buy another truck necessarily.
Yeah.
Now, if something happens with them, you would have to go pick up their truck,
Sure.
run it. So it may be best to get another truck, but you save a ton on expenses because you can go run everything from your vehicle and then you're back at home running everything from the office,
Mhm.
right? But you also have to understand, okay, you're the person answering all the phones.
Yeah.
You're the person scheduling. You're the person signing people up. You're collecting the money.
Yeah.
You're doing everything on the backside. You can't be out in the field selling.
Can't do both.
No, 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 no. You can do it on the weekend.
Mhm.
You cannot do it during your normal business hours. If you're Monday through Friday, which I suggest for everybody, if you're starting your business, do not go Monday to Saturday.
Mhm.
You will kill yourself.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Mhm.
Restrict it down to Monday to Friday, or if weekends are phenomenal, go Tuesday to Saturday.
It's good advice.
Be closed Sunday, be closed Monday. Do not take on appointments. You can be the office during those days
Mhm.
and you can take on phone calls and you can schedule appointments throughout the work week,
Sure.
with whether that's Monday to Friday or Tuesday to Saturday, but you cannot don't go 6 days a week spraying and office. Big no-no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest that to anybody. Um, it's a big commitment and you're going to have to now do that forever.
Yeah. Forever.
Yeah, because you're going to get some customers that are Saturdays only, and those
Mhm.
Saturdays only, you can't just randomly take away or they're going to leave.
Yeah.
And if you get too many of them, that means you're losing $1,000, $2,000, and you can't afford that in the beginning.
Nope.
So
No way.
you got to be strict with that. But understanding when I do decide to bring on a tech at that 400 mark or the 200 mark, or if you're quarterly, that's cool because you can actually do it even further.
Sure.
So you're looking at the probably 650 mark, 700 mark if you have quarterly appointments.
Which makes sense.
Which actually quarterly is not a bad way to go because you make so much money.
Mhm.
There's a lot of money. So a guy can run 250 more accounts. So he could be running a route that's worth three to $400,000, which
Mhm.
is awesome. If he's doing that 750 accounts
Yeah.
and they're on a quarterly rotation.
Mhm.
Now, depending on where you live, it may not work.
Yeah.
A lot of callbacks in the summer, a lot of problems, depends on the chemicals. There's a lot of factors there. So you got to choose your business model well
Mm.
when you start going down that path.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why you get a lot of the door-to-door companies will do quarterly.
Mhm.
And the reason why they do quarterly is they can put more accounts on less techs.
Yeah. Like Aptiv is only quarterly.
Yes. Yep.
Mhm.
They're one. There's a few others out there that are only quarterly. Terminex will run a lot of quarterly accounts. And their business model is how many accounts can I put on one guy?
I see.
Uh-huh.
I see.
Because then your profit margins skyrocket. So there, I mean, from that 60 just to 90 days, right?
Mhm.
You get that switch, you can add so many accounts on a guy
Yeah.
that it's like they can produce so much, you can actually start to afford better guys. You can pay them a little bit more.
Mhm.
Um, Now in our situation, quarterly's terrible.
Mhm.
Those guys actually suffer out here because the second that summer hits, their services just dip
Oh yeah.
and we get a lot of calls from them. So it depends on your area, depends on where you're at and what you can get away with.
Mhm.
But usually 60 days is the sweet mark. That's
Okay.
where it should be at. We did 90. We have clients on every
We
90
do.
days. And they've stuck through it, but majority of our customers that were every 90 days canceled.
Mhm.
They didn't want anything because they're
Yeah.
like, I can go with this company. They're going to come out every 60 days. So they just got rid of us.
Yeah.
So be prepared on that.
Okay.
So when you are in the office, understanding those responsibilities.
Mhm.
Did I cover that well enough?
You did.
Okay.
You did.
So clear on that is the path on what you want to take to go for a tech, or if you want, I guess that was us in the office. Let's take the other side, right?
Correct.
Okay. This one's always an interesting one. Because I actually went office side,
First
kind of.
or more
I should say,
focused.
yeah, more focused office side.
Mhm.
I was boots on the ground out in the field because see, this is where it gets so difficult. so many guys. When you dive into the financials of it, um, and the very difficult thing you look at is, and this is where you get the blinders up.
Mhm.
You're in it, you're running, you're stressed, you don't have time to think,
Yeah.
you don't have time to really understand what's going on. It is literally just go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the financials and when it comes out, it's going to sound bad. But when you actually internalize it and think about it and look at it, it's okay. It makes sense, but it's stupid.
Yeah.
And that was what was for me.
Mhm.
It made sense. Now I know it's stupid.
Okay. Yeah.
So you look at it is who produces the money? Who makes you the money? Well, the technicians do.
Doing the services.
Doing the services make you money.
Mhm.
You don't do the services, well, you don't make money.
Right.
So what I looked at is, okay, well, I can hire a guy and I hire a tech, and the tech can do what? 12 accounts, 13 accounts, 14 accounts.
Yeah.
You know, he can work Monday to Friday.
Mhm.
Most guys say they can work 6 days a week.
Most guys say a lot of things.
Exactly. My experience is, even with the guy that I did have on, I can work 6 days a week. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Dude, he lasted 2 Saturdays in a month. And then he's like, I'm burnt out. I
Mhm.
can't do this
It's
anymore.
too much. Yeah.
And it wasn't like I didn't, I paid him for the OT. It wasn't
Yeah.
like he did not, like, it wasn't
It's
like
not
the
he's
money
coming in
wasn't
for
there.
free. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all there, but it's amazing how lazy guys are.
Sure.
So don't expect the tech that you have to do 6 days a week and do the same thing as you. But that's what I saw for me. It's like, wait a minute, I can go out there and I can produce $1,200 or more a day consistently,
Extra. Yeah.
6 days a week.
Mhm.
Dude, I'm the guy.
All day.
I'm going out there. I need someone in the office. I'm going to go out and produce.
Yeah.
I'm going to produce. I'm going to produce. I'm going to produce. Now, that's why it made sense not to care as much for the office.
Mhm.
The problem is your office is the first contact with every single customer.
Mhm.
So you look at the techs and keep the techs on the road, keep the techs going because that's generating the cash, that's generating the money.
Mhm.
You hire office staff, there's no cash generated that you can see on paper.
Yeah.
And that's so difficult for the guy to say, "Hey, I want to hire, I want to hire a tech and I'll be in the office." Because once you go into the office, you're not making any money. You're not producing any money.
Yeah.
So you want to be out in the field and you want someone in the office where you're like, it doesn't matter anyway. We're
Yeah.
not producing anything. But it's so crucial when you get a good person in the office. Um, so I moved that way naturally. I
Mhm.
actually hired someone in the office and I kept running out in the field
Mhm.
and I pushed the growth. I was out there in the field selling and doing everything. And some of you may say, hey, that's actually the route I want to take. I can still be out in the field. I don't have to worry about the office side of things. You still have to worry about the office side of things.
Yeah, you do.
Because at the end of the day, you're still running payroll,
Mhm.
most likely. You're still looking at the bank account. You're still cutting the checks. You're still signing everything. If you find someone that you can trust, you could probably put them into that position, but you still have to oversee it.
Yeah.
Because if you let it run wild, they can steal money from you really, really easily.
Sure.
I never had that happen,
Mhm.
but I've heard
Yeah.
of people doing that and it happens. They start cutting checks for themselves
Yeah.
and they start running with it, right? And you have no idea because you're out in the field doing your thing.
Yeah. And everything looks good from your quick overview. You're not diving into it.
Yeah, we're producing money. I'm out there producing a ton. We're collecting money. Cool. I don't care, right? But they could be stealing money on the back end.
Yeah.
Not saying that everybody's like that, but you still have to have your checks and balances.
Of course.
So when you're doing that, I went out to the field. I hired someone in the office, and I hired someone in the office because you should have money, enough money to hire someone in the office
Mhm.
if you're running a full route.
Yeah.
There is enough money for that. Once again, there's not a ton of money for that,
There is money for that.
but there is money for that because you got to realize, quick math, you're running 250 accounts. If you're charging $79, I don't even have my phone,
I got you.
$79 for the, let's say 400 accounts, so 79 times 400.
31,600.
So 31,000.
$31,600.
So $31,000, right? So some of that obviously is going to go into your pocket. Some of that's going to go into the office pocket,
Mhm.
and then, and that's if you have that consistently. Oh, sorry, that's divide that by two.
divide that by two, $15,800.
Sorry. So you're making 15,800 a month, but that's still enough to disperse between you and the office
Mhm.
and pay for chemicals, your truck, fuel,
Mhm.
everything else that you need.
Sure.
And there should be a little bit there to advertise with
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Should be.
Should be. Depends on how much you're taking.
Mhm.
That's where I say if you can get it to where you can take almost nothing,
Yeah.
that's the best,
Mhm.
because then you're going to have so much to push for growth and feel for growth.
Yeah.
Now you have to do it smart and at the right time, but it can work out,
I can see that.
you know. Um, but even when you're doing it by yourself, you probably wait to hire even office staff until you hit, that 300 to 400 mark.
Okay.
Because you're not going to be making enough,
Yeah.
to really hire somebody on full time.
Yeah.
And you may be able to hire someone on part time if you want to slowly creep into it.
It's not a bad idea either.
Yeah, most people I don't know would do that,
Mhm.
but even technicians, most techs that I've
Yeah.
talked to, they want full time work. They don't want to do part time.
Yeah.
So getting a guy on part time may be a little bit more tough than
Mhm.
just getting them on full time. So you may have to
Makes sense.
wait. But if you can find someone who can do that, part time's always the way to go.
Mhm.
And it goes back to the same thing out there, guys, is it doesn't matter really how you do it. You just got to do it in your way. You find a part time guy, cool, run with a part time guy up until you can get him full time.
Exactly.
And if he's okay running full time too,
Mhm.
or office wise, if you can pull someone in who can do a part time office, that's awesome while you're out in the field
Right.
and growing it and pushing it. And then on the off days, you're back in the office
Mhm.
up until you can have them on full time.
Yeah.
But understand, you're going to see that 15,000, 15,800 drop
Immensely.
dramatically,
Yeah.
you know,
It's true.
even if you're not paying them, top dollar on everything, right? You're still losing 3 grand
Mhm.
to pay them on a monthly basis,
Sure.
so, and that's on the lower end,
Mhm.
so your 15,800 just went down. Oh, and you got to pay taxes on the money that you're paying them. So you're going down to 11,800,
Mhm.
maybe 12,800 if you're lucky, right? Like that's where you're sitting.
Right.
So you're losing a big chunk of that. Plus, you still got to pay yourself. Plus, you got to pay for the vehicle and the gas and the chemicals. And if there's any repairs or anything like that, oh wait. And if you're doing exclusion work, you got to go buy the material and then go do it.
Yeah.
You know, so you can charge some people up front. You say, hey, 50% has to be put down now, and you can use that money to go buy this stuff. But you have to be really smart,
Right.
because at that beginning stage is literally do or die.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I've actually met with a guy. He was an operator. He has his own company. I don't know if he still runs it or not. Uh, won't hire anyone.
One
He
man
is,
show.
yep, one man show. Yeah, he goes home midday, plays video games, does his route, and that's it. He doesn't want to grow, doesn't want to do anything. He tried it. He got burnt. He tried it. He got burnt. He said, "I'm done. I'm only going to get burnt from now on."
Hmm.
And so he has his whole outlook has always been that. So he won't grow. He won't hire.
Yeah.
But that's where people get into it, and you have to understand you're going to make a mistake, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes.
Oh yeah.
So make them quick so you can learn.
Learn from them. That's the big thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. If you don't learn from them, then you're just going to be this guy and just run your company, be the guy, and that's it. Don't do anything else, right? I just interviewed a guy who owned his own company, and it was refreshing hearing him talk about this stuff
Yeah.
because he did bring it up. Is I was running my company, stuff happened, circumstances came up, and I got out of it. But I want to be in pest control, but I don't want to run my own company anymore.
Yeah.
I'm done. I don't want to worry about the finances. I don't want to worry about taxes. I don't want to worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
That's not that's not what I want to do. I want to be in the field, doing the work, doing everything.
Yeah.
And he made that very clear.
Mhm.
And so that's what it is with, everybody that you're seeing, and you go through this is when you jump into it and you're starting to look at, okay, I want to grow. I really
Mhm.
do. Some guys don't want to.
Sure.
The ones that do, and it's, hey, I want to grow and I want to push it to that next level. Find out what you want to do and where you're going to do best. You're going to do better in the office, then hire a tech out in the field.
Yeah.
You think that you can train him and he's going to do just as good of a job as you, but less accounts per day.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do that, you know, but understand you still have work to do in the office.
Right.
You go the opposite route and you hire someone in the office, understand you're still going to do office work and you still have to check in with that person. You still have to oversee them. You're just going to have more time out in the field and you're not going to have to worry about taking the phone calls, worry about the sales calls coming in, worry about, irate customers, worrying about collections because that person will take that on,
Yeah.
right? So it's really deciding how you want to take it
Sure.
and what you want to do. Now with the information you have, at least picking my brain a little bit,
Yeah.
what would you do? Would you stick with it?
Am I going off of what I would do personally?
Huh?
I would probably hire an office staff first.
Oh, you would?
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
And then you'd go out in the field?
Uh,
Okay.
Only because I enjoy selling and I know I'm good enough at it. And I know that I could do the office work and eventually I would get to that point where I can pull myself back in. But I think I'd be more effective, like you were saying, out in the field.
Yeah.
And that's just me.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just me. I mean, some people, it's like it kills them if you're getting up there in age, or it's hard for you to get around like that. Then obviously the office or the tech side would make more sense. But for me, it's like I can go, like you said, I can go out and bust out 6 days a week if I absolutely needed to, and I'd be okay physically, and I know that
Yeah.
if I set those barriers for myself, I wouldn't get burnt out or I wouldn't get overwhelmed because I know that there is an end goal in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's good. I
Yeah.
think I would do it a little different than I did.
Okay.
I would probably pull myself a little further back on the technician side. Um,
Initially.
I would, when I came in, a little background. So when I came into it, we had someone in the office that we couldn't afford. So they were getting out no matter what. We had to. Um, but then we also had a technician
Mhm.
that was he knew a lot. He knew a
Yeah.
lot, but I had to still be out as a tech.
Mhm.
Um, but if I would to do it and go back and do it differently, I would have hired on a guy and I would have stepped into the office
Mhm.
and taken over the office itself. Now, fast forward, I did that anyway.
Yeah.
We actually got rid of the office person. The guy who was out in the vehicle, the tech that knew his stuff, who was in the industry a long time, he moved. And so it was another tech, me, and I was the office
Mhm.
because I was answering the phone calls while I was out in the field.
Yeah.
Now the good thing is I had the phones routed to my phone and I had a tablet, actually had a laptop. Um, and so I was doing everything. I would stop, I'd pull over, answer phones,
Just
do
on the go.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. And then I would do a couple stops and things like that up until we found someone to put into the office. The only reason why I go the office route is because we had so many terrible people in the office.
Sure.
Um, they did all right. They kept us afloat, but I think that's because we were pushing so hard out in on the tech side.
Sure.
But you have to understand the saying "you're as strong as the weakest link" is so true.
Mm.
It is very, very true.
Mhm.
The office was weak,
Mhm.
really, really weak for many years. But the technicians, we were so strong on that side,
Mhm.
but we could only be so strong with such a weak office staff.
Yeah.
Um, so I was still doing so much office work and tech work. I was killing myself on every level.
Right.
Weekends weren't weekends, weekends were office work,
Mhm.
right? And then really trying to clean up anything else I could.
Yeah.
So it's being prepared for that, but I would do it a little bit different on that and I would focus on the office
Mhm.
only to get the office work down and then hire someone really good
Yeah.
that could handle it. And then I would go back out in the field and I would sell and I would do everything like that.
Mhm.
But it would just be establish a really good tech, establish a really good office staff,
Yeah.
office personnel, and then you can really go do whatever you want.
Mhm.
Right. Um, but hopefully that helps a little bit for
Yeah.
everybody out there.
It's kinda cool. Just a side note because, I came in, I've been, with you for about 2.5 years and hearing you, like, actually explain it out, it's like, "Oh, well, that makes sense," is when that time is when you wanted to when you met me out in the wild, like, not
Uh-huh.
even in the industry, it's like, it makes sense why you wanted some help in the office initially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, yeah.
But no, it does make a ton of sense, and when we were planning this episode, we had a million different things that we wanted to talk about. So we wanted to
Yeah.
do this as kind of like an intro for the guys out there who are looking to build that team for success. In the later episodes that come out, we'll kind of get into the more intricate sides of hiring the third, fourth tech and advancing those positions on the technician side and on the office side, where those some of those roles and responsibilities could divide. And I'm even looking forward to, a point that you were making is, when do you realize you're paying somebody too much or not enough? And when do the checks and balances come in?
Oh, that's a good
So I
one.
do want to save that for some later episodes, but I think this was a really good just jumping off point for the guys who are looking or who have been kind of doing their own thing, who've maybe brought in a tech here or an office staff here, or been trying and doing things on their own. I said it a million times. We're not geniuses. We're just going off of experience. So please, guys, you hear something. This is great for the Q&A this month. We want some input and some feedback because we will be diving into more of building the technician team, building
Mhm.
the office team, and how it all coincides to be that growing, living being that we're trying to build here.
Yeah, and honestly, and this is probably really refreshing for a lot of guys to hear because they ask the question
Mhm.
and no one's probably giving them an answer of when should you hire,
Sure.
how should you hire, what does that look like? And we want that out there is, don't overcomplicate it either. I think some guys get into their head of, what direction should I take? Look, they just said two different ways. And so,
Yeah.
well, what if I got another mix, and there's a
Mhm.
different, there's so many scenarios, there's so many ways to do it, there's so many ways for success, there's so many ways for failure.
There is.
It's, pick what works for you and then go that route and just go 100%,
Yeah.
you know, and just make sure you're learning along the way. That's really it. You're gonna screw up. You're gonna ruin a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen, but that's okay. Even if someone was there holding your hand, you're still gonna screw up. They're just gonna help you get over that screw up a lot faster because they've already done it.
Right.
So be prepared for that, but it doesn't matter what path you take, but understand when it comes to paper, the money on the paper, what's that looking like, your profit and loss, seeing that that's going to tell you a lot of what you can and what you can't do,
Yeah.
and diving into what guys are getting paid and when they're getting paid too much,
Mhm.
we can talk about that as well. And we will. This is going to be part one of multiple episodes getting into the business and into the growth side of it and eventually building a cohesive team, but we want to throw that out there for the guys who are starting and with the summer amping up and with all the accounts rolling in, it's I'm getting a little overwhelmed. What do I
Yeah.
do? And who do I hire? And where do I hire that? So I do hope that helps you guys out there. The guys that are building their company and they're looking for that next step. I hope that helps. I hope
I
that helps a
agree.
lot.
I agree. And like I said before, the input goes such a long way because it's not just us talking to you guys. It's like the stuff you guys give
Mhm.
us, we put back in the episodes and we ask the guests that come on. So
Yeah.
please, I know everybody, like you said, is dealing with a lot of the same stuff. Let us know what worked. Let us know what's great, what sucks, what you did, and maybe some success stories if you want to come on and be a guest. I mean, there's tons of ways to get a hold of us.
Yeah.
Easiest way is going to be our social media. So we have our Instagram, our YouTube, obviously our website. You can put questions directly in there. If you want to sign up and just be a guest, we can reach out to you to get you on the podcast. Like
Mhm.
last month, we had tons of guests come in, but we wanted to do more on like the business side and growing in, like you were saying. So obviously we have episodes that come out every Monday and Thursday on whatever platform you're listening to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. The notifications go on. You can do the auto download.
Mhm.
Um, Monday, Thursday, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook group is out now. But guys, stay tuned for the next couple episodes. And thank you again for listening to the DNA Pest Control Podcast.